Doors of Change is a 501c3 organization that I founded in 2001. And as Reed said, we've helped over 2,100 youth not only get off the streets, but get into safe housing. With all the stress that's gone on this last year, we wanted to have an event that was going to be uplifting and positive. And there's nothing more to me more uplifting and positive than focusing on success stories of homeless youth. That's exactly where we are tonight. We want to show people that homeless youth can break the cycle of homelessness with hard work and thrive in life. Almost 20 years now in July, we've been helping homeless youth get off the streets from ages 12 to 25 years old. And during this time, we realized that the most underserved of the entire homeless population were the transitional age youth. We call them the TAY youth, from ages 17 to 25. They're invisible. You never hear about them. They have very, very little funding, minimal resources, and very few beds. But all I can tell you is that of anybody, any age, we believe that this is the greatest age that can break the cycle of homelessness. And because of that, 9.5 years ago, we said we're going to go specifically to help the youth that need it the most, the transitional age youth, for 9.5 years. Tonight, you're going to see amazing stories and hear amazing stories from 4 people that have actually been homeless, that have lifted themselves off the earth and made something of their lives. They're thriving right now. As you know, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, and a second-year law student. We want to keep hope alive for people, that it is possible that they can, under any situation they're on the streets, they can break the cycle of homelessness, lift themselves up, and have a better life with hard work. It takes a lot of hard work. People always ask me, why are youth homeless? Number one, most of them do not want to be homeless. But the ones that are homeless because it's safer to be on the streets than in their home. They come from such abusive situations. Their parents are drug addicts, are alcoholics. If they're LGBTQ youth and they come out, they get thrown on the streets. And the problem is, even though they don't want to be homeless, once they're on the streets, it is extremely difficult to get off the streets. The main reason is they don't trust anybody. Everybody has lied to them and take advantage of them, especially the adults. So what Doors of Change has been blessed to know that from the very beginning, music and art is the key to building trust very quickly, quicker than we've ever seen before. It usually would take 6 to 9 months in the old days with normal outreach to be able to gain trust with a youth. With our now program, our award-winning program in Ocean Beach, between 1 to 3 classes, youth are asking for help. And when they do, we give them our amazing case manager, Jenny Ford, and Jenny does all the resources that they need, gets them the housing that they need, and she's just been amazing with them. So trust is everything, and it's important. Without that, you're not going to be able to, they're not going to ask any questions at all. Tonight, you're also going to hear about how COVID has really affected and changed what we've done. We're actually busier now than we were before COVID, and Joanne Newgard will share that with you later on tonight. You're going to see a short video soon of what we do, followed by the panelists are going to share, and then we're going to have questions and answers. Finally, I want to thank the panelists, and especially the 4 panelists that are going to share their life stories with us. Because I'll tell you something, folks, there's a lot of pain sometimes that goes on when you look back in your past with a homeless youth. But they're willing to go through that to be able to share their experience with you because they want to help more youth get off the streets. They are my heroes. Thank you.
The thing that made me leave home when I was 12 that was so bad was my new stepfather. He started to abuse me physically, emotionally, mentally, would call me names, drag me by my hair, hit me, kick me. He was basically torturing me.
On the streets is quite difficult. near impossible to trust people, really, because they were always looking out for themselves. I had to do the same, look out for myself.
The longest time period I didn't eat for was probably like 3 days.
I was chain smoking cigarettes for warmth. I figured the heat from the smoke, keep me warm for the night.
I slept in a lot of crazy places. I would sleep like on park benches in parks. I slept on the beach a lot. I eventually had a tent. Well, there was one night I slept in a dumpster on top of a piece of cardboard. Thankfully, it wasn't trash day.
I was able to sleep in front of anybody, no matter what. It was like, hey, if they kill me, they kill me. And, if they would try to rob me, they rob me. It's like, that's just what it was.
I would perform in the streets to get some money. I would just do tricks with a soccer ball.
The toughest thing about being homeless is the loss of hope and trying to hold on to that.
I first heard of Doors of Change through outreach. Jeff was walking around doing outreach.
We're going on outreach, which we've done now for 18 years, twice a week, trying to find homeless kids between the age primarily of 16 to 25. When we find them, we ask them if they'd like to come to a music and arts program. They get free music lessons, free art, free dinners, free food, free clothes, case management, whatever they would like. We've seen now over 7,300 visits now in 6 years.
The staff of Doors of Change are kind. They're always in a great mood. They're always asking to help anyway. It's really nice. It feels like a family.
Doors of Change has helped me because I was homeless at 17 because my biological dad got involved and he punched me in the face repeatedly. And now I'm about to graduate from college, computer engineering. Homeless, degree. Pretty clear line.
It's really important that people that are able to donate to Doors of Change can provide the financial support that we need to continue to provide opportunities for these kids, whether it be music instruments, referrals, life skills, anything that they need help with. They need a lot of support, and even if it's just $5, I mean, really anything can help these kids. And the bigger the donation, the more children are going to end up with opportunities like me that they can make something of themselves and make an impact in this world. And that's why it's so important that we have donors. They really make the whole organization run.
"15 years ago, I met a homeless youth that would not look at me in the eye for 2 months. Every time I saw her, she was dressed in black. She was extremely depressed. I'll never forget when she came up to me for the first time and looked at my eye for the first time and said, "I want to learn how to play music." That was the beginning of Justine just completely developing in her life. She never went back from that day on. She went into our music program initially, then our expressive arts program, which really made her who she is today. And to see her massive transformation over 15 years it's unbelievable. Justine is a giver. She always wants to help other human beings, other homeless youth. She loves animals, but she also loves to help homeless youth. And so anytime we've asked her for 15 years, I don't think she said no one time for any interviews to meet with youth that need mentoring. And so she's a giver and she deserves everything in life. Justine, can you please share with us how you went from the streets from 12 to 15 years old and now second year law school?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jeffrey. I still do wear black. I just wear suits now instead of T-shirts. So yes, my name is Justine Bethel. I did leave home at the age of 12. I was living in a really abusive family environment. My stepfather was using me as a punching bag on a regular basis just for existing. And I was living in really bad parts of San Diego. And I did remain homeless from the age 12 until right before my 16th birthday party. So I was a teenager. I was living on the streets of San Diego. And I am a success now, but I'm here to tell you that my success is not my own. When I left home, I didn't know where I was going to go, but I knew that anywhere that I went would have been better than where I was and what I was dealing with at home. And it was really scary to be a teenage girl on the streets. A lot of people want to take advantage of you. They want access to your body. They maybe want to sell your body and use you as a commodity. And it was really hard for me to try and avoid a lot of that, which I did successfully avoid that. I was not used for trafficking. I shaved my head and tried to make myself look like a boy so that I didn't have those kind of things occurring. I didn't have much success getting food or clothes or shelter on a daily basis. I was begging, stealing. I had a guitar. I was playing music for people and asking for change, that kind of thing. I did get involved with some shady people over time, and my luck changed, thankfully, when an officer had picked me up because he was interested in some information that I had about some crimes that had committed by my ex-boyfriend. He actually took me to a shelter instead of taking me to juvenile hall, which obviously completely changed my life and gave me the opportunity that I needed to get off of the streets and get into a normal life. And when they took me in the shelter, I felt like my life wasn't worth living anymore. I was so depressed that I didn't really see a future for myself. And the only solace that I had was my guitar. But when I was at the shelter, I found there was love, support, kindness, and most importantly, there was a music program. Then the thing about music is it has the power to heal your soul. I was able to start closing some of the wounds that had opened when I was on the streets and forget some of the failures that I had as I was able to look towards having a future. And this music program was funded by Doors of Change, and it gave me a space where I could express the pain that I had been carrying with me for so long. It was Jeffrey's team of angels, and they gave me hope that the world wasn't a terrible place, that there were good people. And they taught me that my life did have value, that my life had a purpose, and there was something beyond all the troubles that I had experienced up to that point. And that's why Doors of Change is such an important organization, because rehabilitation costs money, but you can't really put a price on hope for these kids. And that's really what they need, is they just need that hope that they can trust in someone, that someone will give them that hand up that they can get off of the streets. So after I won a lawsuit and I started my own business with the money, I do have a jewelry business. I enrolled in community college and I graduated with 3 associate's degrees, one in English, one in biology, and one in the humanities. And I used my English degree to transfer to University of Santa Barbara, and I completed my bachelor's with a 3.87 GPA, high honors, and multiple awards from the English department for my poetry that had been published in the school paper. So I am a law student now. After graduation, I enrolled in the Ventura Colleges of Law in their hybrid Juris Doctorate program, and I did successfully complete my first year. I'm actually about to take finals, so wish me luck. I'm a little scared. And I will be starting my second year in 2021 in the spring. Currently, I work as an internal revenue auditor for a tribal casino, and that's actually really similar to being a lawyer. I'm making sure everyone's following the rules and that all the money is accounted for. And I am saving up to buy my first home, which I never thought was going to be a possibility for me in my life. My jewelry business did take a hit because of the pandemic. A lot of my events were canceled, and I am still running things sort of online. I have a holiday sale that's going on my Instagram. My handle is Friendly Feathers, and I will be donating a portion of those proceeds back to Doors of Change once the sale is complete. So the reason I say my success is not my own, because of this, because of Doors of Change and all these kind angels investing in me. And then I was able to actually invest in myself because they believed in me. And now I can invest in others because I've actually attained that success. And I'm here because I want my success to find a home in the heart of every child that sleeps on the ground, but dreams of sleeping in a bed. I want this future for every youth so that they can feel safe and warm. To every lost child that wants to find a way, this will be your success too. I give it to you freely so that you can find a future for yourself as well, because success is attainable if you just have a little bit of help along the way. That was my speech, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be taking questions later. So if you have any questions, just put those in the comments and in the chat. And then I believe I'm introducing a really amazing human being next.
You want to do it with you? Why don't you start and I'll finish? How's that?
Okay, well, I would like to introduce you to someone that actually was in the program at the same time as me. It was a really close friend of mine, someone that I've seen grow into a really amazing, inspiring, and intelligent human being. I'm really glad to introduce him, and then I'll pass it to you, Jeffrey.
Thank you. And Matthew is just amazing also. When I first met him, he was 17. And all I can say, Matthew, is to see what you've done in your life is just extraordinary. You're one of the hardest workers I have ever seen in almost 20 years of working with youth. And I always would say to you, save, save, save. You took it to another level, man. Of anybody in 20 years almost, you've saved more than any other youth I know. You saved over $20,000 with working around the clock while you're going to school, but that gave you the money to be able to go to college. And I'm so proud of you, of what you've done in your life. You are also a giver, both you and Justine. You never say no for public speaking events, to mentor a homeless kid. And that's why you're successful, Matt, because what goes around comes around, and you deserve everything. Please share with us what it's like from the streets now to having 2 degrees, and your world is your oyster now as an engineer. You got to unmute. Got to unmute, Matt. Reed?
Okay, there you go. So
There
sorry,
you
I
go.
couldn't mute myself. Reed just unmuted me. Thanks, Reed. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Justine. I have known both of these people since 2005. As you saw in the video, I was in a shelter at 17, escaping a violent home situation. And what I can say is the most important thing is early intervention. The clear through line of my life, I can see everything started when I got involved with these programs. From the very first day that I was homeless, I had a safe place to stay. I had people who cared about me as a person, people who treated me with respect, who treated me not just as some dumb kid, but as a person who was on the threshold of adulthood, who had very difficult decisions to make. And that first night, I didn't know where my life was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to have to do to survive. And I remember being in that place where I just didn't have very much hope for my future. And I was just preparing myself for, I'm going to do what I got to do to get from one day to the next. And every day I'm grateful that I had this program when I needed it. And so I graduated high school while I was living in a shelter. I had food to eat every single day because of Jeffrey and his program. I was able to go to work, pay for community college, and I was able to go to college, and now I have a degree in computer engineering. I've done it. I'm working every day to find jobs in software development, and I'm living in San Rafael. It's a beautiful place. I've got my own home. I live with a beautiful woman, and I've got a very comfortable, great life now because I had people who helped me out when I needed it. And this is something that other people need. And now more than any other time before, there are people who are going to start falling through the cracks. They don't have hope. They don't have the people in their life who are going to catch them at that perfect moment. And you can be that person, and this program can be that program for those people. Every dollar that you give is going to end up going directly to somebody, and it's going to help stabilize them so that they can put in the work to make their own life better. And it's not just about giving people, cash. It's not just about giving people stuff. It's about giving them the tools that they need and giving them the stability that they need to do the work themselves. And that's what I did. It took a very long time. Sometimes I feel too long, but put your nose to the grindstone and you can do it. Those other people, they're going to be able to do it. And not everybody is going to come back and talk at symposiums and give speeches every year for Jeffrey. But they're out there. This program is helping real people. And I come back every single time because I feel like I'm the face, I'm the voice for those people who don't want to come back. They don't want to put themselves on blast. They don't want to talk about their trauma. But I'm willing to. And when you see me, I'm the face of 100 other people that this program has changed and 1,000 other people that this program is going to help out in the future. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your donations. Thanks for being involved. And thank you for going out and telling everybody in your life about this program and what it is doing for young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much. So now we're going to talk to Autumn Knight, who is an American recording artist and songwriter who went to Berklee College of Music. And as you saw, that she actually helped our program 17 years ago. For 3 years, she volunteered teaching youth. And not only did she teach Matthew and Justine, but many others. And so thank you so much for being a giver. And can you share with us how it was, number one, you were teaching them 15 years ago, and how music made a difference in these youth lives from your perspective? And then how is it seeing them 15 years later, successful human beings?
Hey everyone, I'm Autumn. Thank you, Jeffrey, for having me. Doors of Change just has such a special place in my heart. I started working as a volunteer at Storefront 10 plus years ago. I consistently went to Storefront every week for 3 years. And it was an unbelievable experience. It was so fulfilling, obviously not only for the youth to be able to sing and play and to share music with us, but it just filled my heart with so much joy to be able to go there every week and share that experience with them. Upon the first couple weeks that I was there, I met Justine. And I remember she was very, very guarded at first and had every right to be guarded. And I remember this one evening during music class, we went to the second floor of the building outside. It was just her and I, and we were just kind of chilling, talking. And she started playing guitar with me, and we started singing and writing a song. And it was unbelievable for me to see how all of a sudden, just like the guards slowly started to come down. And so I just feel very blessed that music has been the catalyst for beginning the process of trust, with all these teens. And now to see where Justine is in life is just, brings me so much joy and is truly an unbelievable success story. And Matt as well, to see where you are today, just truly, truly incredible. But yeah, Storefront, we just had so much fun. And back when I was volunteering, it was known as Photo Charity. We would do our benefit concerts every single year. We had one at Humphreys by the Bay in San Diego. We had a huge one at Anthology. And we even had the opportunity to go to Studio West to record an album with the kids. So every year was just so exciting, and it was just so fun to see how the music just brought everybody together. Everybody had fun. These kids had been through hell and back, and for them to just have a safe place to let go, to use their voice, to play an instrument. Music truly has the power to heal. And to be able to see that firsthand at Doors of Change has been one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. But, like I said, it took some time to instill the trust, but I am so grateful that music was basically the reason why the trust was able to be instilled quicker with the teens. And, you know, I always brought a fun, warm energy, but again, these kids have been through so much, and for them to let down their guard and sing and use their voice. I remember at the end of every music class, we would pick a song or two that everyone wanted to sing together. People were dancing, playing instruments. So yeah, it's just truly remarkable. And this, you know, thank you, Jeffrey, for bringing everybody together virtually. And I want to continue to be involved with everything that you're doing. And anyone that's here tonight that's new to learning about Doors of Change, you know, Jeffrey is an unbelievable inspiration in this world and such a blessing in all of our lives. So for me to see 10 plus years later, the direction that these kids have gone in, and now they're young adults, is truly remarkable. So again, I'm Autumn Knight. This is my East Nashville living room. I'm an electro pop artist. I was supposed to be on tour all year, but I'm just here working on new music. But I'm originally from San Diego and Los Angeles, so that's where I met Jeffrey in San Diego. But thanks for having me tonight, and congratulations, Matt and Justine, for doing such incredible things. I'm very, very proud of the path that you're continuing to take. It's truly remarkable.
Thank you, Autumn, so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
So our next angel is Nikki Johnson Houston. Nikki is a graduate of Temple University Beasley School of Law in 2004. She is practicing tax attorney in Philadelphia and has her own firm. She's a determined advocate for homelessness. She's won many awards. She was United States of America Miss Philadelphia, Miss Pennsylvania 2019, 2020. She's the Philadelphia Business Journal Minority Business Lead Award in 2016, and the Journal Woman of Distinction, and many other awards she has. So, Nikki, we are just so blessed that you are here to share with us tonight. Can you share how you went from poverty and being on the streets when you were 10 years old to owning your own law firm? Not an attorney, you own your own law firm, a tax attorney. How the heck did that happen? Please share with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for having me. And I feel really honored to be in the company of some really extraordinary human beings. I think so many parts of my story will kind of sound similar to everyone else's. So I have experienced homelessness 3 times in my life, from the ages of 9 to 10 for almost a year, at 15, and for the last time at 19 years old. And how my family ended up experiencing homelessness was because my mother had drug and alcohol issues, and she was a single mom. My dad left when I was about 2 years old, and my mom decided to move us out to San Diego when I was 9, kind of away from my grandmother and our family unit. And within a couple of weeks of us moving there, she met someone, a man, and he took all of our money. And so we ended up living in a hotel, living on motels, and kind of just finding our way to the streets because we ended up running out of places to go. One of the things that kind of really resonates for me is I remember that we couldn't stay in our shelter during the day, and we would go to the library. And it opened up this entire world to me. I would read these books, and it opened up the possibility. But what I want people to understand is that no matter how determined you are, that homelessness really strips a lot of things away from you. You feel a sense of shame, you feel embarrassed, and you feel invisible. And one of the biggest fears I had is that was going to be what the rest of my life was going to look like. That I was going to be hungry, that I was going to be scared, that I was going to be cold, and that I was never going to be able to climb out of that hole. And unfortunately, this was the time before Doors of Change. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go and live with my disabled grandmother and to access the social safety net. I think what I want everybody to take out of all of our stories is none of us gets here on our own. And it takes a lot of money and a lot of programs and not just this program, but government programs. We were on the streets for almost a year, and my mother realized she just couldn't keep us together. And it was also my younger brother. But because my grandmother was living as a disabled person in senior citizen Section 8, she could only take one of us. And she took me. And I think she took me because I was the girl. And even though she didn't have a lot of money, she provided a safe place for me and a stable place for me. And she told me that anything was possible if I worked hard and if I got a good education. And she used Section 8 and welfare and food stamps and her Social Security payments. And it's why I'm sitting here. I was able to get a scholarship to come to school to Philadelphia to college. So that's how I ended up here in Philadelphia. But I was traumatized from my experience, and I struggled emotionally and academically, and I didn't know how to ask for help. And after my first semester, I was kicked out of school, and I was put on academic probation. And after my first year, I was kicked out of school, and I struggled for a couple of years. But I was fortunate. I answered an ad for a nanny as a live-in nanny for a family of lawyers, a wealthy family on the main line, which is a wealthy suburb here. And they took me in. They encouraged me to go back to school at night. I worked for them all day and went to school 4 days a week. And in 1998, I graduated from the same college I failed out of. And in 2004, I graduated from Temple University, with the first person in the history of my college to graduate with a law degree, an MBA, and a master's in tax at the same time in 4 years.
Wow.
I always like to say to people, not bad for a formerly homeless girl. One of the reasons why I'm sharing my story is because, like everyone else said, I think that when people think about homelessness, they don't think about what the possibility is. They think about all of the negative. But it takes investment in people for them to be able to live their best life. For me, one of the best things about getting my education and using my life experience is what I've been able to do to share my story with others. In 2012, I became an Eisenhower Fellow, and I went to India and New Zealand and looked at ways to end generational poverty. And I shared my story with the untouchables and went to leprosy colonies and talked to them about what was possible. And I took that experience, and when I came home in 2015, I created the Donify app that allowed people in need and homeless people in Philadelphia to be able to locate nearby services using their phone. And I was able to do that because of my education, but more importantly, because of the money that I make as an attorney. So this is not about charity. This is about investment. So full circle moment. One of the things that I dreamed of when I was in a homeless shelter was I said to myself, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to have lots of shoes, and I wanted to be Miss America. Well, I'm a lawyer. I have lots of shoes, a closet full of shoes. And last year I was named Miss Pennsylvania. So when you invest in people, there's nothing that they can't do. But helping people to believe that and to see that in themselves, that is a hard, hard sell. And without people like Jeffrey and Doors of Change and his staff and people like my grandmother, and without the investment of taxpayers in the social safety net, none of this would be possible. So one of the things I really want to encourage all of you is to really think about giving. And I'm always one to put my money where my mouth is. And I will be donating $1,000 tonight to your organization and giving back to the city of San Diego, which definitely made such an impact in my life. And I would like to do it in honor of my brother, who unfortunately passed away in 2010, was not able to get past his struggle with homelessness.
Nikki, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for wanting to make a donation also. You are truly an angel. Thank you so much. And again, folks, there's going to be questions and answers after the panelists speak. So if you have some questions, chat with Reed and give him your questions, and we'll ask the questions when we're finished. But thank you so much. Appreciate it. Next up, Dr. Cheryl Rickanos. I hope I got it right this time. Cheryl was homeless from 16 to 19. She came cross country, ended up in Los Angeles. And she has a quote. She says, that was one of the hardest times of my life. But I realized that the struggles I went through as a teen helped me shape me into who I am today. She is now a family practice physician in Lancaster, California. And Cheryl, please share with us, how did you go from the streets to become a doctor?
Hi there. Thank you for having me. So my story took place a little to the north of Doors of Change. I grew up on the East Coast, and I was the youngest of 5 children in a severely dysfunctional family, with a mother who suffered from mental illness and a father who was narcissistic. I didn't feel safe or loved, and I didn't feel seen or heard. By the time I was 13, I'd had enough. Deep down, I was depressed and contemplating suicide. I didn't feel like I would survive if I stayed in my dad's home. I ran away and came to Los Angeles. Horrible, dangerous things happened, and it didn't end well. I was eventually arrested for being a runaway and sent back to my home state, where I spent time in foster care and then juvenile hall for almost a year before I was eventually given back to my dad. Then at 16, he told me he didn't care if I stayed or left. That was enough for me. I packed my bags and headed west again, for good. When I returned to California at 16, I had given up on trusting adults. They'd proven to me time and again that they didn't see or hear me. I didn't believe that they had my best interests at heart or that they would protect me. I spent almost 3 years on and off the streets, living in shelters, staying in squats, sleeping on the bus as it weaved its way across the city at night, and sometimes spending all night walking, and then sleeping in the safety of drop-in programs during the day. I took huge risks and encountered real dangers. There is no safety for homeless, vulnerable youth on the streets. Unspeakable things happened to me, as well as to my friends. Not everyone survived. I think of some of the friends that I lost along the way, and their memories propel me forward. When I was 18, I found out I was pregnant with my first kid. I had just secured my first apartment, and I was working full-time, but everything fell apart a few months before the baby was born. I spent the last few months of my pregnancy sleeping in the 24-hour McDonald's at night or back in squats. I found a temporary place to stay when she was born, but I needed permanency. My case manager at the youth program near me connected with me and convinced me to apply to a Young Moms program. I was even able to enroll in community college classes. Getting off the streets wasn't easy. Staying off them has been a lifelong goal. At first, I was in a program, and then I moved in with my baby's father when she was 8 months old. We made it work, and we've been together since then. My case manager continued to check in with me until I graduated from UCLA. When I first met my baby in a hospital room, I knew that I wanted to be the best possible mom for her. I wanted to be somebody she could be proud of. And in that brief time in the hospital, I was enchanted by the medical field. It sparked an interest in me that never went away. I transferred from community college to UCLA in 2000, and then graduated in 2002 with hopes of eventually applying to medical school. I became a high school science teacher first, providing much needed stability for my growing family. We had our second child while I was at UCLA, and our third while I was a new teacher. As I continued my studies, I saw the incredible value of having an education. I completed a master's in education while I was teaching, and I knew the whole time that I wanted to go back to school to study medicine. When I finally got into medical school in 2010, it was like the weight of all those years was finally lifted off my shoulders. I could have big dreams, and they were achievable. I graduated from medical school and completed my residency in family medicine so that I could have the training to take care of all ages of patients. I work as a hospitalist now, taking care of sick, hospitalized patients. I've also been able to volunteer my time in the Caribbean and in Mexico, where I've been able to help take care of underserved patients. I've been fortunate to share my story with medical students, residents, and physicians so that they can better serve homeless patients throughout their careers as well. And I've continued to volunteer at the program that helped me as a teen. I'm honored to share my story with Doors of Change. This program seeks to help vulnerable youth and connect them with valuable resources. They're helping to turn these young people's lives around by injecting hope into them at a time when most people walk right past them. Just by being here tonight, you've made an impact on kids like me, and I thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm sure people are going to have questions for you after this. Next, of all the county, city, state elected officials, no one has helped Doors of Change more over the last 19 and a half years than Supervisor Christian Gaspar. With her donations the last couple of years alone, over the last 18 months alone, we had 137 youth that we placed in housing, many due to the funds that we received because of her grants. So I would really appreciate if Kristen can share with us about the situation. Thank you, Kristen.
Well, good evening, Jeffrey, Cheryl, Justine, Matt, Nikki. You are my inspiration. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. It really is a pleasure to be amongst you tonight. And thank you for the opportunity. In his January 1964 State of the Union address, President Lyndon B. Johnson proclaimed, "This administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America." Johnson argued that the United States should aspire to more than simply sustaining people in poverty. This nation, he declared, is committed not only to human freedom, but also to human dignity and decency. According to the Heritage Foundation, since President Johnson made that declaration, US taxpayers have spent over $22 trillion on anti-poverty programs. Now, I'm really proud to be here tonight. It's my honor to support Doors of Change. This is a phenomenal organization that's helping homeless youth transition from being invisible in our community to being invincible. As a result, right here in San Diego County, we have a transformative solution for young people experiencing homelessness. It's right here before our very eyes. Through exhibiting genuine compassion for these young adults, Doors of Change does more than provide 4 walls and a roof. Now they're offering music and art instruction, and youth are given the opportunity to really explore their feelings and their challenges through the arts. They're able to achieve a sense of mastery for the first time, to develop social skills that are positive and constructive, and most importantly, create a vision for their future that is full of nothing but potential, investing in human potential. Now that's really exciting. And since 2001, as you've seen it, Doors of Change has been transforming the lives of homeless youth, one person at a time. Doors of Change is exhibiting on a daily basis that there are real solutions for homelessness in our region. And I'm just so proud to play a small role in all of that. So thank you, Jeffrey, for the opportunity and for opening that door to me and filling me in on the beautiful work that you're doing. And again, to all of those who have transformed their lives, I learned from you. It's time that you tell these other elected leaders your story, because they can learn from you too. Thank you. I appreciate the time tonight.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. Thank you. Next is Council Member Jennifer Campbell, who studied history at George Washington University and was involved in civil rights movement, which is amazing, with Martin Luther King Jr. She then went to get a medical degree from the University of Pittsburgh in family medicine for 37 years. And now she's a council member in District 2. Council Member Campbell, can you please come forward?
Yes, thank you, Jeffrey, so much. I am so honored to be here, and I am so inspired and so impressed with all of you. And I want to thank everyone for all your words this evening. And I want to tell you how proud I am that Doors of Change is in my district. I'm thrilled. This is an inspiring event, and I congratulate all of you involved, all the panelists, and all the young people that are lifting their lives up. And I want to say the work that you've been doing for 2 decades is not easy. And reaching the lives of young people and connecting these resources with them is a challenge. And even in the midst of this global pandemic, Doors of Change is doing its job. I have some written remarks, but I'll tell you what, from what I've heard tonight, I really want to go ad lib And I want to tell you a story of hope. I want to tell you about an experiment, and I know that Dr. Cheryl will appreciate this because we're both specialists in family medicine. But this is a story of how politics can mix with society and make things happen. And as you heard from what Jeffrey said about my background, I'm old. So when I was young, and we didn't have homelessness. We did not have it. Why? Because we still had the social safety net built by FDR and Harry Truman. So things, and Dwight Eisenhower as well. So things were going pretty well. And then unfortunately, the safety net began to shred. We've got to rebuild it. And we have to promise each other that we'll keep it going forever from now on. But I want to tell you about another doctor. His name is Howard Dean. And some of you may have heard of him. He was the governor of Vermont for 12 years. And he ran in the Democratic primary for president way back when, several years back, didn't get the nomination. But while he was governor of Vermont, he started a program in his state where every child who was born, he believed in prevention. And I know Cheryl can relate to this. We believe in prevention. And that is the most cost-effective way to fix anything, is to prevent bad things from happening in the first place. So what he did was he noticed that the population in the jails was going up. And he thought, what can we do? They did a study and they found that everybody in the jails had been abused. Some in all ways and some in just some ways, but every one of them had been abused as little ones. And so he decided that every child that was born in Vermont was going to get a visit from a social worker and a nurse while their mother was still in the hospital having them. Now, this was in the days when insurance had changed, so mothers were only allowed in mostly overnight, and then they sent them off home. When I had my kids 50 years ago, we stayed 5 days in the hospital, but not anymore. So years ago, they changed it to overnight. So what happened was the nurse would come in the day, usually the child was born, and speak with the mother, and hopefully the father would be there as well, and say to them how wonderful it was and how difficult it is to raise children. It is the hardest thing in the world, and how much they wanted to help, and that would it be okay if they would come visit them at home a week later with a home visit to see how things were going and what they needed and what they could provide to help them. And so, much to their shock, 98% of the parents said yes. And so they sent the social workers and the nurses to the homes, which we know in family medicine. I know in my residency, we did house calls, we did home visits. And it was great because you can see the milieu, the environment in which the people live. And so they went to the homes and they found, that a lot of the parents didn't have a support system. They maybe didn't have grandparents nearby or good friends or older neighbors who were wise and helping them. And so they needed help. And so they were able to connect them to services that would help them, to parenting classes. And they also told them about child abuse and about spousal abuse. And Governor Dean's idea was that over 20 years, we would see a drop in the prison population in Vermont because of this program if it went on for 20 years. Well, unfortunately, he was only governor for another 10 years. So the program went on for 10 years. And then what happened was they did find after 20 years, indeed, the prison population did drop, even though this program was only for 10 years. And they did find that over those 10 years, 60% of spousal abuse ended and 50% of child abuse ended. And so it's very, very important that not only do we help those poor youth have been out on the streets now, but we need to start the minute we're all born. It takes a village to do this job, and we need to get this program going, and we need to help our children right from day number one and help their parents from day number one. Because, a lot of parents grow up in a bad situation, as many of you have, and it's hard to break that pattern. You've got sort of like a tape recording in your mind of how your parents treated you, and then you're not real sure how you're supposed to be as a parent. And it takes a lot of learning. So I think it's really important that we consider prevention along with the cure, which Jeffrey and you all are providing. And kudos to you guys. I know what I went through to go to medical school. I have another story, but it's not nearly You guys are so wonderful and so blessed that you picked yourselves up like that. And I just want to thank you for doing it, and thank you for telling everybody how hard it is. It's difficult, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. The most important thing in life, and the reason we're here, I truly believe, the reason God made us was so that we could help each other. And so I want to help Doors of Change as much as I can. I'm so proud that you're here in District 2 in the beach community. And I want to tell you that the City Council has done a lot over the last year and a half to help the homeless. But one of the main things we did was adopt the community action plan. And one of the goals, the 3-year goals, was to end youth homelessness in San Diego. And we are well on our way to doing that. We have now decreased youth homelessness by 37% since October 2019. And we have, yes, and we have since April 1st, when we opened the convention center for the overall wraparound services and everybody under one roof providing all the care needed. We have housed permanently 1,000 homeless people. So we are really making progress in San Diego. It's the silver lining in the COVID cloud. So hang in there. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep trying to find funding. Oh my gosh, you know how the budget's gone to heck because of the COVID. But we are going to work hard. We're going to make our priorities these kinds of things, because these are the important things that mean so much to humanity. So I want to thank you again for everything you do, and you guys have lifted yourselves up, and you're lifting others up too. And that's what we're here for. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Campbell. We really appreciate it. And we are glad that you're in our district. So lastly, Joanne Newgard is one of our biggest angels we've ever had with Doors of Change. She's been with us for 4 years. She's the program director. Unbelievable. She's double the size of our program, of the number of youth that we see in the last 4 years. The youth called her mom. They love her. So Joanne, why don't you do a little sharing?
Thank you, Jeffrey. What an honor. Boy, it's tough to follow this group. I'm going to go first next time. But I want to first thank the panelists truly for sharing your stories. Cheryl, Matt, Justine, Nikki, these are personal stories that are very sacred to you, and for you to take time and to share them with us, I just want to thank you personally, and thank you for being here. As program director for almost 4 years now, I have heard many stories, many stories. I have met with many young men and young women. Not only met with them, but I've spent time with them, and I've heard their struggles, their challenges, as well as their achievements and accomplishments. And one of the things that I'm most proud of being part of Doors of Change, is that I've been able to witness this firsthand. And I've been able to see all the good work that we do here. And I'm very, very proud to be part of this organization. I'm often asked, and Jeffrey's often asked, we're asked, why at Doors of Change are you so successful? Why have you been able to help so many youth? What is special about your program? We've been asked on interviews, Jeffrey and I, what is the secret sauce? So I thought long and hard about that. And I think it is that we are able to a very special program where the kids feel safe. They feel nurtured. They feel welcomed, not judged. And that sets up a safe place, which is so important because they're coming from such unsafe places. So from the moment they walk into the program, they're greeted by this amazing group of volunteers and staff. We have had the same music and art instructors since the beginning of this program. John January, who teaches guitar, Bill Fish, who teaches violin. The same faces. So right there, that says to these kids that they care to sacrifice their Sundays every single week to be there for them with open arms and support. When you feel cared for, it establishes trust. You feel safe, establishes trust. And when you establish trust, you start to trust their advice. And that's where I would introduce you to Jenny Ford. Jenny Ford is our amazing case manager. And let me tell you, case managers, and anybody knows a case manager who's been a case manager, They are overworked and underpaid, and they're amazing. And we have one of the best. The youth love Jenny because she is unassuming, and she welcomes them with open arms and does not judge them. Again, establishing trust that is so important. They trust her referrals because they trust the program. They trust everyone in the program. So when that happens, they're more likely to ask for help. So when people ask what is it about our program, I like to believe it's the people, but I like us to believe that we establish such a trust that they themselves will go the next step. Because you know what? The kids have to be ready. You have to meet them where they are. And if they come a week and they still aren't asking, or if they come a month and they're still not asking, that's okay. But we will be there when they do. So I think that that's very important to understand, is we need to meet the youth where they're at without judgment. That's easier said than done. The program has been so successful for so many reasons, but the trust, I think, is the biggest. We also try to make it as a home. We do laundry. I actually do their dirty laundry. And we provide haircuts. We give them a sense of pride. When you walk out with clean clothes and you're wearing your favorite jeans, I know I feel better with my favorite jeans. So it's all about creating self-worth. And I think when you feel more worthy, you're going to want more for your life. So again, I am so proud to be part of this organization and to work with such tremendous, committed, dedicated people that are there for one reason, because they truly care about these young people. And I'm so glad all of you are here, because I can feel it in the room that we all care and want to help and support. Because truthfully, these young people today, if we can break the cycle now, early intervention is so important. When you look at the chronic homeless young man, old man or old woman that's out there, 50% of them are homeless before the age of 25. It is so important that we make this a priority for all of us. And I appreciate everyone being here, and certainly our county's commitment to this, because San Diego, as you know, has such an issue with this, and we need to break this homelessness now. So thank you everyone for being here. And thank you for sharing your stories, panelists. Dr. Campbell and Kristen Gaspar, thank you so much. We need you, we need you, we need you. Don't go anywhere. And thank you guys for having me say my piece here with everyone.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much. Folks, I know that some of you might have to leave soon, but I want to just share just a couple things with you, and then we can open it up to questions and answers. If you've been touched tonight, you've seen 4 homeless youth stories that are unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen Rocky stories like this before. Right? One after the other. They take away all the excuses. The key is that we can do this for more youth. If we work together, we can help more youth have the kind of life like they have with hard work. And so if you're touched tonight, my request on Giving Tuesday, and by the way, there's no accident that this is Giving Tuesday today, to give, make a donation. There's several ways I'll go through right now how to do it, but the most important thing is do something. Because if you're touched and you don't make a donation, you haven't helped the solution. So the first way you can give is join our angel team. For 36 cents a day minimum, which is $11 a month, you might say, Jeffrey, I can afford $50 a month, $30 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can afford. Reoccurring monthly donations, it's like a membership fee. It really helps us. It sustains us longevity-wise. Number one, so go to doorsofchange.org if you want to be on the angel team. Make a donation of any amount, $5 to $1,000 to $1 million, whatever you can give. We appreciate it. It all adds up. Next, be a corporate sponsor. We have concerts, galas, events like this. If you like music, memorabilia, we have some amazing memorabilia. I just got Billy Joel, who was our first music angel that helped us, just sent us his 6th signed keyboard. That's for sale, but because of COVID, it's 50% off price. We also have Jerry Seinfeld signed an art piece of the photos that I did of him, which he loved. We have Chris Isaac. Not only did he sign the guitars, he did artwork on it. It's absolutely amazing, one of a kind. Jewel, who was homeless, signed guitar, and also Boss Skaggs. So if you like any of those, go to the website and make a difference. Look at it when it's on your wall and you know you're saving kids' lives. help us increase awareness. If you're a Rotary member, a Kiwanis member, if you have any kind of clubs, birthday, bar mitzvah, whatever you're going to do, weddings, we'll come and speak at any event where there's people, because we want to educate them about the homeless youth issue. Help us with social media. And lastly, if you want to be a volunteer, email us what your strengths are. So I've just given you several ways to help us. The most important thing is please do something, because we have such a successful program now. We want to help more homeless kids have a life that they deserve with hard work. So we really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. And now we're going to open it up to questions, and Reed's going to be in charge of this. So thank you so much again for being a part of this tonight.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you have to go, we totally understand. There will be replays of this. We will put it on our YouTube and let you all know where it is so you can tell your friends. Let's jump into the questions. Our first question is from John Washington at Arch Insurance, one of our sponsors tonight. And he has this question to all panelists. What investments are you currently putting into yourselves for continual personal growth and in helping others? And panelists, I'm going to spotlight you. Go right ahead, Cheryl.
Well, for myself, I have found that writing is very therapeutic for me. So I've been doing a lot of writing to share my story and talking with others about my experiences, because for me, describing what I went through in a way that makes other people feel engaged and want to help youth is very important. And it makes me feel like I went through all of that for a purpose. Because if I just went through it with nothing good coming from it and just pain, it would be, something I couldn't celebrate. But the fact that my life has meaning and I've been able to touch so many people, and the same with our other panelists here, our lives matter. And that means that we want to keep moving forward and helping other young people show that their lives matter too.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any other panelists? What are you doing to grow yourselves now? Let me unmute you here, Nikki.
For me, I think it's staying involved in the community. I'm, the first person in my family to own a home, and, I really have to go back and make sure that I'm invested in this community. When I was Miss Pennsylvania, my platform was homelessness, and I used that opportunity to go to Harrisburg and to speak to legislatures who were putting forth legislation to allow homeless children to be able to stay in their local schools. When I went to nationals and made the top 6, I won the People's Choice Award, and my prize money I was able to give to a local men's shelter. So to me, I think it's about kind of making that commitment to not just share my story, but to make sure that I'm going not just to tell the public about homeless people, but also to be an inspiration to people who are dealing with homelessness themselves. Because I think sometimes they need to kind of see where we are. The difference between us and them is time. And sometimes I just think being that positive role model and reminding myself that when I'm walking past my office, that I'm not walking past somebody who needs help. So, I think it's an ongoing process to make sure that, I'm out there, I'm keeping my empathy, that I'm writing, that I'm talking, that I'm engaging.
Thank you. So that brings up another interesting question for the rest of the panel. We talk about a lot of people, they walk by these faces on the streets. We walk by these homeless people. We think, I'm one person, I can't make a difference. One person is just a single voice screaming into the wind if I try to advocate on their behalf or give. What can somebody do right here, right now, one simple act that could actually make a big difference in the lives of a homeless youth?
I'll take this one, if that's okay. I actually gave a TED talk kind of about this back in 2018 when I was at UCSB. And I think especially for people, if you're actually seeing one of these youth face to face on the street, is to just acknowledge them. Like the name of, the symposium is Invisible to Invincible. And that's how a lot of these kids feel when they're sitting on the sidewalk or asking for change. They feel like people can't even see them, that they don't even acknowledge them. And I think just acknowledging these kids And, you know, if you have the funds to give them a little bit of money, or maybe if you have the time and you want to take them out to lunch, you know, like wherever your boundaries may lie for that, just acknowledging them, looking them in the eye, asking them if they need anything, that can really make a world of difference. I mean, if you look at me, like that's what happened to me. I had so many people that asked me, do you need something? Can I help you? That at a certain point, I was able to actually cross that threshold and get over that. And now I'm able to offer that opportunity to other people as well, that when I see, you know, a kid that might be struggling, I know exactly what they need. I know how I can help them. And it just keeps building, you know, it keeps building until, you know, eventually, hopefully we'll be able to overcome this problem entirely, and we won't have to worry about these kids being on the streets anymore, because we'll have so much funding and so many opportunities for them that they can get the help that they need. So.
Thank you, Justine. I saw a lot of nods from our panel. That's the common thing, is that feeling of invisibility, huh?
I think mentorship though, and also providing opportunities, because a lot of us, we worked to go through school. So it was harder than some of my other classmates. So maybe I didn't have a 4.0, maybe I had a 3.0, but there were people who were willing to see my life experience and my work experience as not cutting against me, but as showing that I had resilience and perseverance, and that was an important job skill. And I think a lot of times when people are looking to give opportunities, sometimes they give opportunities to people who are just like them. And one of the things is if you want to help people to get to where we are, then you have to be willing to give people who maybe just aren't like you those opportunities. So that's one of the things that I would say. Like, there's one thing to get off the street, but there's another to get into the C-suite, or, you know, to be an executive or to be a lawyer. And for me, I wouldn't be sitting here if I hadn't gone to be a nanny for a family of lawyers who, not besides giving me a place to live and a way to earn money, also showed me a way to operate within this new level of society that I would have never had access to, so that I could blend and so that I could achieve at the highest level.
Very good. There's that saying, you can't dream to be something you can't see, right? So you're giving them that chance to see what they can be. Staying with you for a second, because I had a question for you, actually. Was being African-American a factor that made homelessness even harder for you?
Yes, actually, I think that's an excellent question. I think that people's racial stereotypes fall into play. So, I mean, look, when we were on the street, there were plenty of white people that were there with us, but I think my perception is that people saw white people as maybe necessarily going through a difficult time. Maybe they lost their job, versus sometimes African Americans, we were treated as this was a character flaw just because we were lazy. And, you know, it's difficult being in the socioeconomic position, regardless of what your race is, but race does factor into it. And so it did make it a little bit more difficult, but I do think that there were opportunities for me once I was able to get past that stereotype, that people did want to help me. And I think now that there are opportunities, because people are a lot more conscious about these issues with the unrest that we've seen this summer, that people are going out of their way now to provide those opportunities.
Very much. I think a lot of perceptions and self-awareness have changed a lot since the summer. And now, like you said, because you're a mentor, you're giving people something to see, a place they can be. Matthew, what about you? What was your experience being African-American and homeless? Was it an impact?
You know, I had always wondered. I never had a moment where I felt like somebody was being prejudiced against me specifically. What I noticed more was a certain lack of concern when I talked to people. I don't know whether it was because I was a man or because I was Black, but, you know, telling people about, you know, oh yes, you know, I'm homeless, or I was just previously homeless. People go, oh yeah, you know, that sucks, or, you know, oh, okay. And they just keep on trucking. It's just like this certain, you know, like, oh, well, of course, you know. and I think that kind of, you know, people just don't expect very much from you when you're Black, and you know, when you're a young Black man, people just don't expect you to be smart. They don't expect you to, you know, try very hard. And when I was going, you know, to school, trying to do more, that was where people were surprised. They were like, "Oh, you're in school for computer engineering. Oh, you're good at calculus. Oh, you know, like that's interesting." And I think that is really more of what speaks to me, is that people, you know, even if they're not necessarily like outwardly prejudiced against you, they just don't expect very much from you, and it's like, "Oh, of course you're a screw up." So that's my experience.
Anyone else have any different experiences based on gender, background? Let's see. Next question. This one's for Justine. How did a young girl, actually, it was for a couple of you. How did a young girl, female, survive on the streets? What were some of the ways that you survived on a daily basis? Cheryl, do you want to tack that, and then we'll move on to Justine and Nikki?
Okay. For me, I acknowledge that there's a lot of danger on the streets, especially for young women. And, you know, what some of the panelists were talking about staying in groups is very important, because if you go off on your own, then you put yourself at risk. And there were times when I didn't trust anybody, and I didn't trust my friends or my community of other homeless youth. And so I did isolate myself at times when I shouldn't have. And I got myself into a lot of trouble and ran into, you know, very significant danger. And that's as much as I'd like to say about that. But it's something that is traumatic. And, you know, we need to find a way to protect all young people on the streets, because yes, women are at a high risk, but also, you know, people who are LGBTQ are at high risk, and people who are African American or Latino are at high risk. And so when we really talk about it, every single youth deserves to be protected, and it's our responsibility to find a way to protect every single youth that's out there.
Well said. Thank you. Justine. There you go. Let's see if that works.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I couldn't unmute myself. Yeah, I mean, I already knew that it was going to be dangerous for me when I left home, because my mom had experienced a lot of sexual abuse when she was growing up, and she warned me, you know, that there were going to be things that people were going to try to do to you. And so I was kind of already aware that there were dangers. And for me, I decided to try to conceal my gender as much as possible. And I would dress very androgynously, and I did shave my head so that people couldn't see that I, you know, had blonde hair or that I was a girl. And I was really skinny, so, you know, none of my puberty didn't really show that much when it came around, because I wasn't really getting the nutrition that I needed. So I stayed really slender, and I think it was easy for me, because I concealed my gender, that I didn't have a lot of people trying to get me involved in things, because I just wasn't as attractive to the child traffickers, being an androgynous looking young boy with a shaved head. But I know other people had other experiences too. As Cheryl mentioned, staying in groups is really important for a lot of these street kids, especially for the girls, to find protection, to find someone that's maybe bigger or older than them that could protect them. And unfortunately for me, those people ended up being gang members that got me involved in some pretty shady things. So, you know, in some ways it hindered my success being a girl, but in other ways I found that people were more compassionate, because I was actually a girl, that people did want to help me more. So it was kind of a double-edged sword in that way.
Thank you. Nikki, anything else to add? Was there anything else you did?
I was fortunate in the sense of, you know, I was going through homelessness, especially in my younger years, with my family. So I think my mom was very vigilant. I do think that certainly my gender was more of a concern for me, certainly, than my race was. And when I was homeless for the last time at 19, I met this man who offered to kind of like take me in, and I said yes. And honestly, I was very, very afraid that he was going to sex traffic me. but he didn't. He put me in a hotel, and that's where I stayed until I was able to get the job with the family of lawyers. And he's been a friend of mine for 20 years. So I think that was just more luck, and really more luck and God's blessing than that. But I think the truth is that my brother ended up running into abuse within the foster care system, because I think people just automatically think that it happens to girls. But I think children that are dealing and teenagers that are on the street, you're vulnerable, and predators take advantage of people who are vulnerable, who can't fight back.
Bill Corkery asked you to unmute because you had a question. Would you like to ask your question yourself?
Yeah, Autumn, thank you very much for what you do. I feel pretty close to you because I was watching that concert that you did, the virtual concert, and you had a big part of that. That was beautiful. And Justine, I've seen your videos so many times. I feel like I know you, and so I mean, you just glow. And Matthew, the first time I heard about Doors of Change was at the Los Lobos concert, where you were featured in between the acts. And I've really got a soft spot in my heart for you. Thank you for what you've done, and for all the people that you're illuminating about this thing that needs to be done, that needs to be taken care of. So, and then it all falls on Jeffrey's shoulder and Reed's shoulder, and of course Joanne, and thank you for everybody being here. It's just, I feel so moved by the whole thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll ask one more question, but before we do that, going on what Bill said, it was Scott Birkin who said that all progress hinges on the gap between those who will talk in private and those who will act in public. And we've talked for the last hour and a half. So here's our opportunity to move from talking to action. If you feel as moved as Bill, now is the time. And as you heard, one person can make a huge difference. So consider joining our angel teams, consider getting us involved with your organizations, or giving a one-time donation. Every little bit counts. Last question for Cheryl. Have you had experiences treating homeless people as a doctor?
Absolutely. So before I shared my story with my colleagues, I unfortunately heard a lot of people in the healthcare field who would, say things that were derogative. And I constantly was letting them know that that was unacceptable, and, we need to treat each person with respect and kindness. And they didn't really get it until I published my book. And when I shared my story, quite a few of my colleagues started to pull me into exam rooms with them when they had patients, especially in the emergency room, because I'm down there a lot admitting patients. And the ER physicians started to pull me aside and go over their plan for patients. Is this a safe discharge? Am I doing what's appropriate to meet the needs of this patient? And it was such an honor for me to notice the change among the culture at my own hospital, where people had previously said things that, I always felt like I had to battle to defend and protect patients, because, it's not appropriate to look at somebody's housing situation as a reason to not treat. And because now, since I've been very vocal and I've shared my story, now we've come up with plans and created more of a safety net to protect patients, because that's really what we need to be doing. We shouldn't be doing anything discriminatory or harmful towards patients. And so I'm really grateful that, people have listened. Regarding individual patients that I meet with, I feel like I'm able to develop rapport with them pretty quickly because I get it. And even before I started to say anything about my story, people as patients, when I was a medical student and then when I was in training, would approach me and tell me that they knew I understood, even if I'd told them nothing about myself. And I wasn't sure what kind of clue I was giving them that I understood until I had like a medical school professor that pulled me aside because we had been seeing patients for about 2 hours and he had just met me. And he pulled me into his office and he said, you grew up rough, didn't you? And I had no idea how he knew, because he'd only met me for 2 hours, but it turned out that I don't react. And so that was the tell that I had, and I'm sure the panelists will agree. You can meet people at their time of need. And my reaction isn't like, oh my God, this poor person. It's, you know, let me just continue talking to you like you're a person, because you are a person and you have worth and you have value. And that's how I've always treated people, because that's how I needed to be treated. And so for me, my discussions and my talks I've had with patients have been, you know, profound, because I've had such a great time, you know, helping meet them at their time of need and then connecting them with resources. Whereas other people kind of brush it off as, oh, you're just going to go to the shelter, right? Like, I can sit down and have a real conversation about, you know, what are your options? What have you considered? Have you been to shelters? Has there been a reason that you don't go back? And so I've had quite a few patients who on discharge from the hospital will accept a shelter for the first time ever. And so for me, that's an accomplishment. They might not stay. I might see them again in a couple of weeks, but we've started and we've laid that foundation. And so for me, it's just been a profound experience.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Kudos to you. Jeffrey, go right ahead.
I was just going to say thank you. We had an amazing panel of angels, an amazing group of angels that watched us tonight and participated. And so thank you so much. The biggest thing is, let's take action, because it doesn't matter how great you feel. If you don't take action, we're not going to help any more kids. So take action. It's Giving Tuesday. We appreciate it. Good night, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right,
Good
thank you,
night.
everyone.
Thank you.